Hey, friends, welcome back. This week, I sat down with Nick Laser to explore his story and what it truly means for firefighters to put others first. Nick and I have been friends for several years, and it has been a joy to watch him grow along the path God has set before him. Nick is a devoted husband, a new father to a wonderful 3-month old who is adorable, a paramedic, a firefighter, an active member of his church and community, all while being a steadfast friend. Our conversation touched on a lot of things: finances, life, family, and honestly, just so much more. Huge thank you to Nick for joining the show and sharing his time with us. Be sure to follow the show for all of our latest updates. And don't forget, you can now find us on YouTube at Contemporary Conversations Show. I hope you're settled in because it's time to chat. Let's talk about it. I know you guys had talked about, like, y'all were talking about doing like a couples group, or maybe even the what's the Dave Ramsey study called?
The Financial Peace University. So
Yes.
we did,
Did that
yep.
happen?
So
Did
we
y'all do
did the
that?
financial piece. We loved it. Really kicked the butt, kicked a lot of people in the butt in terms of like how we process debt, how we manage it. It's crazy to me because like growing up, like you kind of think about it, we don't learn it in school. We don't learn anything about debt,
No,
anything about taxes, anything about financial stability.
nothing that we might actually use as far as
Yeah,
finances
yeah.
go.
And then you turn 18 and you've got four things in the mail from credit card companies of like, "Oh, hey, here's 2
Yep.
grand." And you're like, "Oh, 2 grand? I don't need to pay, like, I can pay this back off in the future." And you don't realize it. For us, it was funny. We calculated out our income, and then we took how much we pay it going back towards debt, including the mortgage. And, we're at 65% of our income goes straight to debt. And you're like when you start seeing that percentages is when you really start going, man, I got to change something for it. Because heaven forbid if if Lyft gets laid off or I get put on furlough for some reason or something like that, it's like 65% of our income that we have is now going to be closer to 90% of our income is going to be straight back to debt. And it's like, no wonder
Yep.
the average American's living paycheck to paycheck when, we're sending almost, more than half of our paycheck you know, to stuff that we've done in the past. So,
I mean, that was a huge reason. That was one of the biggest deciding factors when we were like, we could sell the house and move, was we would have the opportunity to pay off our
mhm,
debt. And we had done the math more than once and said, if, I'm working and Ben's working at our current kind of level of income, assuming we don't get like major raises and how much debt we have and everything, how long is it going to take us to pay off everything, not including the house? So all the short-term debt, car payments, all of that stuff. And with an aggressive
mhm,
payment plan and only one car payment, we were looking at 4 or 5
yeah,
years. And we both went, we could do that. We could totally do
mhm,
that. However, with Ben wanting to work for himself, right? There's an instantaneous pay cut that comes with that. And that eventually reverses, Lord willing, right? Like you build the business and you get to work, but there's an initial pay cut. And then we were like, well, if kids come into the picture in a year or 2 years or 3 years or however many years it is, and I decide to stay home, there's a pay
mhm,
cut, because what if I don't go back to work after we have kids? And we were like, it becomes very unsustainable very
yep,
quickly to be on one income or to be starting a business or anything like that when you have all this debt. And we were like, we could we could not have
yeah,
this debt. And the trade-off there is we're selling the house, which we loved the house. The house was adorable, and we're moving across the country. And there were plenty of wonderful benefits that came
yep,
out of that. We got to spend time with my family, and we got Ben's new truck, and we got my new car, and like plenty of benefits. It's been a
yep,
struggle, but it was like, okay, for the time being, this makes sense, even though it's going to be a long
yeah.
season.
And that's the weird thing. It's like it's almost like you have 3 things that you can manage at a time, right? Is you can manage your family, you can manage your emotional health, and then you can manage your finances. And sometimes all 3 of those, when they all come together, you're like, I have to make a change somewhere. And so, your mental health is one that you always got to put the priority. your family is in the priority and your finances, it's the only thing you really have control over, um, out of those things, and it's like, you sit there and you have to make tough financial decisions at a strain of, "Oh, maybe I don't eat out at my favorite restaurant once or twice a week," or for me, it was I stopped drinking energy drinks every day, because those added up, and we used Dave's calculation tool, and I'd spent like 4 grand a year on energy drinks. And you
Oh
don't
my
and you don't realize it,
goodness.
right? Because it's $3 every day, or, if I'm having a rough day, a rough shift, there's $6 a day, and add other things on top of it, and you're like, "Man, I'm up to, like, $20 a day just on stuff that's, doing it," and you do the math out on that, and you're like, "Man, how in the world." No wonder people don't realize that they're just wasting away their entire paychecks because they realize that, "Hey, I'll drop down to a free cup of coffee that I get at work." Maybe I don't need the energy drink to keep me up. I do need the energy drink, but, uh,
I'm gonna be
y
right now with the little
yeah,
one.
maybe definitely right now, but
It just you don't realize how much money you
oh,
spend until you start
yeah,
tracking it.
yeah,
And Ben and I have found that when we were talking about it the other day when we were talking about budgeting, and I said, when I was budgeting, because right now we're using the
yeah,
Monarch app, which if you can afford the Monarch app, it's great. It has its benefits.
yeah,
We like it. There's live budget tracking. We like it. But it's neither here nor there, however you budget. I used to budget on paper. So I had an Excel
mhm,
spreadsheet and I would put every single transaction. And at the end of the month, I would print out my bank statement and I would go line by line and make sure everything lined up. And I remember there would be months where I would print out the bank statement, and in a 30-day month, I'd have 45, 50, 60, 70
mhm,
transactions, debit transactions out of my account. And I was like, that's the equivalent of swiping my debit card twice every single
yeah,
day. What am I spending this
yep,
money on? What what am I doing? And every month I had something like that. I was like, I am using my card way too much. And you just don't think about it because you're like, oh, well, I'll just put on the
yeah.
card.
Yeah, and that's what, so I switched over, so we did, like, personal the checking accounts, so we have, like, that was the other big change for me, from going from a because my wife, Liz very well. She had like 8 savings accounts for different things and all that. So I'm over here with like
Yeah, she did.
one checking account and one savings account that my paychecks went into, and I would just
Uh-huh.
one to the other. So I got my own personal checking account. And what I started doing is I started pulling out my monthly budget of allowance that we set for each other, to help us pay off debt quicker, and we pulled it out in cash. Because there's something about paying for something in cash versus just
Mhm.
swiping a card because you see the transaction. Whereas with that little piece of plastic, you'll see it, but you'll see it at the end of the month, or you'll get the notification on your phone, or you'll blatantly ignore it. Whereas it's now I'm doing a physical thing of handing away what money I can see. So,
There's a physical bucket
yeah,
that you see getting
yeah,
smaller, which is is very
yeah,
nice. I mean, I grew up when I initially started budgeting when I was little, it was the envelope
yeah,
budget, right? Where like you had an envelope for tithe and you had an envelope for spending and you had an envelope for saving and you'd get your, $20 for your birthday and your parents would be like, "Okay, and we have to budget this and put it in your envelope." So that's how I started. And it's very nice to have that just physical like I can see the
mm,
money. I know how much is here. I know how much left. I know how much is coming back. So, yeah, it's a
yeah,
struggle,
yeah.
but,
It's
you
just
know.
it's one of those things where if you could make one change in the American system that you think would benefit everyone, it would be education on debt and finances to start them early, middle
Oh,
school
yeah.
into high school, because the earlier you learn and understand that the credit card companies aren't actually working in your favor. They're there to make money off of you. And, like today, when we discovered that we didn't have insulation in half of our attic, because there's a firewall. And so when they did the inspection, they could only see one half of the attic and not the other half of the attic. Uh,
Right.
Liz and I sat down and we were like, we have a couple big bills pulling out. Uh, so mortgage pulls out and we got car payment pulls out and all that in the next 2 paychecks. So let's go ahead and we'll throw this $400 on for the installation and the install on a credit card, and then the moment the next paycheck hits, throw it right off. Like, I don't like using my credit card anymore. I used to not care. I used to be like, "Oh yeah, we'll get it at the end of the month. I'll get it next year, whatever." Right? And now when you sit there and you look like $400, and with your 27% interest rate that you pay on it, right? You're looking at, you're now oh gosh, mental math. 450, 460. You're for $400, you're paying
Yeah.
about $460 for it. And then you start
Yeah.
taking those transactions and adding it up, and you're like, man, there is so much money that goes. Uh,
Or you
or you,
forget that
you
you put something on the credit
yeah,
card and you don't schedule a payment and you look back and go, "We've been accruing interest on
yep,
this?
yep,
What?" 'Cause we've done that before where we just something comes up big and we're like, "Put it on the credit card because there's not money in the checking account, and then we'll deal with it, like, at some point," and then that at some point doesn't always come, and I'm like, "Oh, man, we have way more than we thought we had on the credit card because we put big thing after," and it's only the big
hmm,
things, which is the other problem is you only put the big
yep,
things on it. So you put 2 or 3 big things on it, and suddenly you have a very large amount
yep.
on the credit card.
My first purchase ever on a credit card was a new TV. Yep. I moved out of my parents' house and moved to my own place, and I got a credit card, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a TV. I bought a very nice 75-inch TV for like $800. I'm pretty sure if you look at that's probably still I'm probably still paying on that. 'Cause we're still not 100% completely out of debt. We're still working through this process of it, but you look back, that was almost 10 years ago. And you're like, if you're not keeping up on it, you're talking years, and I don't even have the TV anymore, and it still feels like I'm paying on it.
Well, the other really crazy one is student
Oh
loans,
my gosh.
and that's something I think we can both relate to because I took out loans for my
Yep.
undergrad. And I was very fortunate, I was very blessed. I had a good amount of scholarships, but there were still loans every semester to cover the last little bit of school for me and then to help cover room and board because I was on work study, so I was working, but it wasn't enough to, like, fully pay for all of my bills. So I ended up I think I had did I have 30 or 40,000 after school? I don't remember. I
Mhm.
had somewhere in there. So once again, very fortunate, very
Yeah.
blessed to have not fully paid for all of my tuition at the University of Alabama because that would have been a significant amount more than that. But even so, I didn't pay on my loans during
Mhm.
school. So just over the course of school, I accrued thousands of dollars of
Yep.
interest on top of the loans. And then I think because do you have a associate's or a
So
bachelor's
I have a
in
associate's degree in
electromech
electromechanical engineering.
okay. I knew it was
Yep.
electromechanical engineering, but I couldn't remember which
That's
one
my
it was.
favorite thing to
So
hold above my wife is I dual She's strictly mechanical. I'm like, "Hey, I'm electrical mechanical, so, kinda better." But
so you
yeah.
know,
Now
I can do the circuit and the
yeah,
levers.
both simultaneously, yep.
So then where did you do that at
So
Ohio?
I went to fresh out of high school, I went to University of Nebraska. I
Oh, that's right, you
majored
did.
in forensic science. And I discovered a fraternity, joined a fraternity. First time away from parents, raised in a very Christian home. Unfortunately, I was one of the ones who fell victim to once you're kind of away from that leadership in the church and all that, you fall very quickly into the devil's grasp and a lot of things. So I relied a lot on partying, drinking, just having fun and not doing school. And I reached a point where I was like, I can't do this. I had a co-op that was in I worked at the Larson Tractor Museum. I worked as a refurb guy, so I would sit there and clean and help rebuild antique tractors. And I'm sitting there one day and I'm
Okay.
discovering it's getting close to finals week. And I'm like, I know I'm going to bomb them because organic chemistry is not my forte.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm like, all right, can't get past chemistry. I don't know what I'm going to do after this. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm really good working with my hands. Like, I find more enjoyment working with my hands than I do sitting down, reading books, doing anything like that. So I left Nebraska and went to Columbus State Community College, where they had a program that partnered with Honda. That was basically a guaranteed co-op that you would, after a year in, you'd get a co-op where you would work full time with them and still go to school. The days that you had school, you wouldn't work, but you'd still get paid like you did. I did that, found that I absolutely loved it. Kind of really hit the books, really kind of get everything going. I found that math is somehow easy for me. Don't know why. Still don't understand math. Uh, but got math really good. Started doing the hands-on stuff. Really got into programming and C++ and robotics programming, and I ended up working for I call it sniped, but I got recruited to work for a company called Worthington Steel. So a steel factory. Um, was the first one of their time to go through the program. So I worked as a maintenance engineer with them. I was there for 4 years. 4 years. Absolutely loved it, but I still young, still not knowing, everything. Kind of let my ego get in front of my intelligence a little bit. And was started looking
That's
for
the engineering
other jobs and other ways to make more money because that's what you focus on. Uh, and I love my engineering degree. I love my electrical. That company got me certifications in high voltage electrical, everything down to robotics, PLCs, um, micro working on microchips was very interesting to power these massive machines that press steel. Really cool to see how everything kind of encompasses together. So it was a lot of fun, but I lucked out with going to school and getting this co-op. Worthington ended up paying for my schooling. So the only
Okay.
student debt that I came out with was from Nebraska. And I'll tell you, I paid that off last year. I know,
Congratulations.
yeah. Well, so COVID hit, right? And COVID, what they do with COVID? They
Mhm.
froze all student loans. They have to pay it back. And we knew the deadline for the repayment was coming up. And I was like, I mean, I think I only had like 3 grand left. And Liz and I came together and we're like, let's just get one thing. What Dave teaches is the snowball. Get one thing off the plate,
Yep.
roll over to the next thing. Get that thing off the plate, roll over to the next thing. So we were like, which one do we start with? And I was like, let's just do the student loan. Let's just get the student loan done out of the way. So one lump sum completely cleared it out. And ever since then, it's been nice. Now, fire school, paramedic school, and EMT and then paramedic, all those were out of pocket. I didn't take any loans for that. Thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to afford it. Um, but
Right.
it was a lot of work and a lot of fun. But glad to be a firefighter paramedic now.
So, yeah, so you transitioned from kind of the engineering side to fire service, and I know your heart for serving because I've known
Mhm.
you for several years, right? So I have somewhat of an understanding, but I would love to know kind of if there was a light bulb moment where you were like, this is what I want to do. This is the transition I want to make, or if it was more gradual than that. Cause I think a lot of people don't understand how to even get into some of these fields like fire, police, EMT. It's just kind of like, oh, those are the emergency responders I call when I have a problem. But what does it actually look like to get into that and what goes into that?
Well, for me, so it started probably 2019 is when I started really. I tried to join. I was going to go into the U.S. military. I was going to join the Navy, work on nuclear submarines because I had a degree, and they were going to give me a $90,000 signing bonus and all of that. Get through whole entry process, make it to Mets, and I can't hear out of my left ear. I had like
Well,
35% hearing loss in my left ear, and they're like, you can go on a waiver, we can probably get you through and all this. And I just kind of took that moment of like, maybe this isn't what I want to do. So I ended up picking up a job at a chemical manufacturing plant, which little did I know that would change my life forever in 21. Worked there after COVID. Uh, did that, and then one night, April 8th, April 8th, 2021, we had a pressure kettle. So they manufactured chemicals. Basically, think of like a giant pressure cooker that they would put all these very flammable, very toxic chemicals in, and put it under a little bit of pressure and mix it all together to make epoxies. Well, we had a failure in the kettle that released this toxic gas, this flammable gas into the atmosphere. And instead of going up into the atmosphere away from the plant, it went into the plant, and it took about 4 minutes before it found its ignition source and it blew up. I'm a building away, standing in front. I distinctly remember this, right? Because it's a traumatic event, everything like that. But I remember sitting there in front of the microwave, warming up my Chinese food that I was so excited to uh, have for lunch. I'm sitting there watching a movie. I'm watching Hacksaw Ridge, the story of Desmond Doss. uh, Fantastic movie if you've never seen it. It's an incredible story. But I'm sitting there watching Hacksaw
Haven't seen
Ridge, and we're
it,
right
but
at the
I have
point.
heard it's
Yeah,
good.
we're right at the point where the battle just began, and everyone's doing the retreat and all of that. And it was like I was in the movie because it was one large giant boom. All of the windows shattered. The first aid medical cabinet came flying off the wall, hit me. Um, and you just sit there in that moment. I remember pausing after everything happened, like, what was that? So immediately, human response, right? We fight, flight, or freeze. I worked with three maintenance guys on this night shift, and I can tell you every single one of our responses. Me, I fought. Other guy who's been blown up before, he was in the military. He flee. He was like, I don't know what that was. I'm out of here. Don't blame him at all. I'm not saying he was a coward or
That's a
anything.
very
I
valid
fully
response.
understand that aspect of it, right? And then freeze. And so I found our guy who was sitting there upstairs, literally holding his cup of coffee, sitting there holding his cup of coffee, just like, it's like, we got to go. We got to go. Unfortunately, that, and it breaks my heart with it that we have these traumas that we go through in our lives that kind of define it. One of our workers at the plant passed away. Another one got leg amputation. A couple of the other guys had severe burns all over their bodies. But God kind of allowed me to have an opportunity to play a role in at least helping some of the victims of this. So we were able to get people out of the plant, out of the parking lot, and into our muster stations. And the funniest part of that entire thing is that first aid cabinet that was sitting on the wall. I ran back into the building, grabbed that first aid cabinet, and ran out of the building. Now I had no medical knowledge whatsoever. Everything I saw was on YouTube. That was it. So I'm sitting there,
So not even a first aid CPR
no CPR
certification.
certification, no. I've been one through like high school, like all this. So I'm sitting there literally using band-aids on burn wounds and trying to do the best I can. And I remember sitting in this parking lot. I got a guy who's pretty messed up in front of me, and it was like a third world or third person view out of body experiences. I had like a top down view of me just sitting on my knees with this first aid cabinet that's not equipped, sitting there and like, I've never felt more helpless in my life. For me, when I feel helpless, I need to change something. I need to get that training. I need to be able to do it because I hate feeling helpless. I know a lot of people hate feeling helpless. It's one of the worst feelings you can possibly do. So night was over, did all of that, and battalion chief from a fire department on the west side of Columbus reached out to me. He was a deacon at our church. Called me. We sat down and talked and kind of ran through a little stress debrief of it. But he said something to me that has stuck with me for ever since. Is that God allows this pain, but He doesn't give us a pain without a purpose. He said, so find that purpose. He said, you'd be for your actions that you did that night, for how you handled it, and understanding how you're recounting it. The fire service would probably be a good purpose. And it was ever for me. It was that moment that I kind of realized that maybe this is where my life is getting steered towards. And I spent a full year unemployed. After that, relying on, odd jobs here and there, still processing with the post traumatic stress from it. And I went through EMT school, got my EMT. A lot of fun, very entertaining. I went to a C Tech out in Newark. I lived on the west side of Columbus, so it was about an hour drive to get out there. Wonderful training, wonderful instructors. Got all that done and ended up and was like, all right, what's the next step? The next step was fire training. Now, been through a fire, got blown up. I wasn't burned, thankfully, anything like that. So we get in our gear, we're ready to go. I'm like, man, all right, let's do this. I'm protected. Like,
I'm good
I'm
this
good this
time.
time. And I was, which was really cool to see because I was a little nervous about it, especially your first live fire burn where you're going into a building with the heat, you feel the heat, you see the flames, all that. Brought back a little bit of stress, but you kind of realize that this is what I'm trained for, and this is the training that I'm developing and going into. So it was just really can't say enough about my instructors at Tolles Tech in just south of Plain City. Those guys poured their hearts and souls into each of the guys that go through that school. Um, they pushed us beyond our limits, and they gave us our the confidence to be able to do so. Because we have to realize that the what I think holds a lot of people back from joining the fire service and joining law enforcement or the military is that we are putting ourselves second at times. And, we have to swallow our pride and we have to do the things that no one else wants to do. But it gives us that very slim opportunity for us to make a difference in someone else's lives. Um, Especially when it comes to the fire side, the EMS side, it's, 85% of our runs that we take at a fire department are EMS. So whether it be lift assist to cardiac arrest and everything in between. Um,
And for people who don't know, EMS stands
Emergency
for,
medical services.
and
So
that's, is that an
yeah,
ambulance or is that just a medical rescue vehicle?
so the fire service has a couple different ones. Depending on what district you live in, you might have a county-wide EMS service. You could have a private EMS service, but the majority, the new one is that the fire service. So your fire department runs your medical calls as well. Both of the departments that I currently work for are that way. That can be on the engine, so the big old fire truck, or I could be on the medic. Depends on the day, depends on the rotation, but we respond to anything.
Is there another vehicle that's pickup truck size? Because I feel like I've seen some essentially fire trucks because they're pickup trucks with the fire emblem on them, but they're not obviously the big engine. Are those just
So we
supplemental?
have grass fighters, which are for like field fires or wildland. But then a lot of our battalion buggies. So we'll have like our chief, not our chief, but our cap. For us, it's a captain or a battalion chief rides around in a F1 F350 pickup truck, and in the back of it's a boat. Really fun. But he'll ride around and he'll chase the medic or chase the engine to provide that kind of, we call it the incident command system. So ICS is what is the acronym for it, but he's just there to do big picture stuff and allow guys like me to focus on little picture stuff. Um, so that's a lot of what you'll see. I know, like the city of New Orleans, they have sprinter medics. They're EMTs or paramedics that
Like
ride around in a truck, like in a pickup truck, and get
sprinter vans?
sprinter vans, or they call them. I think they call them sprinter trucks. But they just get to the scene before the medic is freed up because they're so busy to provide that initial level of care, and then determine whether or not transport is necessary. Um, so, because sometimes we get called to things, and it's not necessary that we take them to the hospital. We'll never tell anyone that we can't take them to the hospital. We will, if you want to go to the hospital, we will take you to the hospital. Um, but there are times that we'll talk to patients and we'll talk to people and kind of be like, hey, this might not be, you might not need to go with us. You can, check in with your primary care, check in all that. You're fine. You're okay. Everything that we're seeing is so, but the EMS side is
So
the
then
the real fun side.
you're cross trained because you're an EMT, firefighter, and
Yep.
paramedic,
So
correct?
it's EMTB, which is a basic, and then there's the EMTP, which is the paramedic. There's also one that's called an advanced EMT and AEMT. They're kind of like a hybrid between a paramedic and a basic. Um, the majority of Ohio specifically doesn't have many departments that are that have advanced EMTs. Some still do, but paramedic is the best way to describe a paramedic is we are equipped to be an RN with like a nurse, with a registered nurse, with the standing orders from a doctor to be able to prescribe, to be able to administer our medications without having to do an immediate consult to a doctor. Whereas a lot of hospital setting medicine is you have to do a consult with the doctor prior to administration of medication. For us, it's we call it standing orders or our protocol that we can give any medication that we can if it deems necessary.
So what's the gear difference between the big engines and then the medics? Because obviously medics are going to have more medicine oriented, and the engine's going to have more, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
hosing and like put out fire equipment. But is there crossover between them? So you always kind of have a basic
Yep.
toolkit, and what does that look like?
So we have ALS trucks. So we call them ALS, which is advanced life support, meaning that we have cardiac monitors, we have medications for cardiac arrests, and the breathing treatments and all that stuff. We have those on our engines, um, especially our rescues that go to car accidents, um, because we have to operate under the aspect of our medic might be out on a run. And so if our engine is going to a scene by itself, we need to have the capabilities to do that initial medicine, that initial life, provide that care.
Right, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Other than that, we medics and rescues kind of share two aspects. We both have fire extinguishers. Kind of fun. There you go.
You have fire extinguishers on a fire
Yeah,
truck?
yeah.
Like little tiny fire
Huh?
extinguishers? You have little tiny
Yes, we
fire
do.
extinguishers on a
Yes,
fire
we
truck.
do. Yep.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
We do. We have little fire.
How often do they get used?
It's basically we don't in terms of actual deployment, like pulling the pin, doing the sweeps and all that, not often. But they're almost taken out on every car accident. An ABC extinguisher is
That
almost
makes sense.
always brought out, should always be brought out on a car accident, especially if there's no active flames, because we don't really know what's going on. Something could spark
Yeah.
at any point in time. It just provides us that quick little knockdown before we can pull the big line and put big water on fire. So
So you have small fire extinguishers. I imagine you have axes on the truck. Do you have axes on the
yes,
medic?
so we have in the fire service there's a tool set called the irons. It's a Halligan and a fire axe, and when you marry them together, so they'll sit there and they lock into each other. It's called the irons. They're both used for forcible entry. So if your residence is locked up and you have a fall, and you can't get to the door, we have the tools available for us on the medic that we can force open the door and be able to come in and help out. The fire trucks do the exact same thing. We have that capability. If your house is on fire and you're not home, you tend to lock the doors. We'll open the doors, um, and stuff like that. So that's another cross tool. The other one that's we just actually got it in one of my departments is a combination tool. What it is the jaws of life, just small. Not nearly the same capacity on it, but it is enough to pop open a door, a car door that's bent in, that won't open up hoods. We used it on a commercial door, big metal, thick metal door, to open up. Um, you can basically do everything that you need to without having to break out the big hydraulic sets. So
How heavy is the big hydraulic set?
50 pounds, I think, is 50 to 70 pounds is one of our tools. If that's the non-battery operated, or we have gas operated ones that are run off hydraulic hoses, those tend to be a little bit heavier, or the battery power tend to be a little bit heavier. But you get so much more movement with them. Because, you know, when cars crash together, cars nowadays are designed to protect the passenger compartment, whereas the old school ones,
Right.
they just ripped apart. Um, they just all crumpled into the passenger compartment. In modern cars, they protect the passengers. Our goal of auto extrication, what we call it, is to actually remove the car from the patient, not remove the patient from the car. Um, so anytime that we can uh, prevent moving the patient too much, especially if it's a severe car accident, the better. If we can get easier access to pull them out in a more linear motion, be able to protect that head, neck, and spine area, leg injuries, all that stuff. If we can provide at least a little bit more comfort to the patient, that's our end goal.
So when you go onto a scene and let's say you're on the engine, you're going in full fire
Yep.
gear, right? And what it's 50 or 70 pounds of gear if it's all the gear.
So I weigh 250 without gear on. With my gear and all of my little tools that I have in my pockets, I weighed in at 315. So
So 65.
65 pounds. Yep. And I don't carry many tools in my pockets. I work with a couple guys who have an entire toolbox in their pockets, so they're probably pushing that 80 to 90 pounds worth of equipment. I mean, our helmet alone weighs 15 pounds.
Your helmets weigh
Yep,
15
the
pounds?
old school ones.
I don't think my neck is strong enough
Oh
to
yeah,
even hold 15.
the new ones are a little lighter. I think my new one's like 7.5, so about half it. But the old school ones were heavy.
I mean, you need the protection, but also what how much conditioning did you do before fire school to prep for fire school, knowing you were going to have to physically just carry all the gear? Because even if you just walk, I mean, you figure, could I farmer carry 70 pounds? Mm, probably
Mhm.
not. We're gonna go with probably not. I don't think my hands are strong enough, let alone the rest of me. But then to be moving, because I mean, if you're going in and out of a house, you're going in with the gear, you're coming out with the gear. If you ever, for any reason, have to use the ladders on the truck, now you're climbing in all this
Yeah,
gear. How much pre-schooling conditioning did you do, or did that all happen in school?
combination of both. So I ran a lot. I did a lot of just basic heavy bodybuilding, lifting, stuff like that. And one of the things that I realized is linear motion movements are great in the fire service. Nothing is linear. We are not picking up patients very easily with, bend with your knees, lift with
That
your legs, all
textbook
that.
motion.
We have to lift people out of positions that we are strained at every aspect, and that's why a lot of guys get hurt. And if we're not keeping up on our physical fitness and maintaining our strength, and especially our endurance side of it, the cardiovascular health, I work out every morning. I do a quick body exercise, and then I have a 35-pound plate that I walk around with, and then I'll walk about 2 miles with it, and I'll do uh, curls and sit ups and everything with it, just to continue that cardiovascular health for it. As much as I like to rat on CrossFit is a uh, great thing for the fire service, because we have to combine that strength and that endurance. And CrossFit, a lot of the concepts of CrossFit, teach that for it. Whereas I'm old school, big bodied. You need me to move 400-pound object, I can do that. You ask me to move a 50-pound object a mile, I'm like, maybe not, right?
"Mm,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm good.
good."
Yeah. Oh, you need that 400-pound thing lifted? Nah, we'll get that done. Yeah. So,
Well, and that's so much of that is actually what Ben and I have been talking about recently because we weightlift and we have been consistently very intentionally for over a year now. Like we've both done it in the past, but for the last year we've been focusing on lifting. And going into 2026, one of the things we've talked about is more of the functional
mm,
side because we both have strength. But if I needed to pick something up with, like, my arm out, there's no strength in that kind of torqued around
yep.
motion, and I imagine, like you said, if you're pulling people out of cars and you're, like, having to bend over and reach in and try and, like, get your arms under them and get them out, this is no longer the perfect little
Mhm.
deadlift where your arms are straight and your back is straight. It's kind of, "Okay, my knees are in fact over my toes, and I need to be able to not blow my
Yep.
knees out when I squat down."
Yeah. And that's a lot of our, we do functional fitness is what we call it. So a lot of our fitness that we do at work is we'll do drill, like people will still regular body build, regular lifting, linear motions and all that, but then we'll throw like sandbag carries. So
Oh,
we
dear.
have a 250-pound sandbag.
Oh my goodness
Uh,
gracious.
I work with a guy.
I don't think I could move a 250-pound sandbag.
I work with a guy who competes at the Arnold and a girl. Both of them compete in the Arnold for the world's strongest firefighter. Both of them are under 5'5". And so they're lifting. I'm sitting there watching them. I'm 6'2", and I'm sitting there watching them lift these, 250-pound pound sandbags, and I'm like, that is half of your, like, that is more than your body weight, and you move it with such
Yeah.
ease. Um, but they have, that years worth of fitness that they do. They pour into it. They eat right. They focus on the cardio aspect as well as the lifting aspect. And I mean, it's impressive their level of fitness that they do. What they can move. I watched him deadlift 600 pounds, and I'm sitting there. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
what?
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness
I joke with
gracious.
him. I said, "Well, you can lift 600 pounds because you only have to move it 4 inches off the ground." So, whereas yeah, my big frame, I gotta go higher. So,
Yeah, that's my younger brother's theory whenever he goes to the gym and watches people bench press crazy weight, and he's like, "Well, your arms are so short that you're not really having to move the weight very
yeah,
much. My orangutan arms over here require me to move the weight 2 feet every rep,
yeah,
so not really fair."
and that's what with the fire service, I think something a lot of people in the fire service are really bad at is maintaining our physical fitness, um, because we get complacent. Is I've been through this, I've done it, I can do it on the fire ground. The reason with that is we run off of adrenaline, and adrenaline can make your body do anything you think you can do.
Yeah.
So in terms of when you have the adrenaline pumping through your body, it's, you're pushing yourself to the extreme, at times, and you can go all out for it. But you're looking at a lot of guys who are in their 40s passing away from heart attacks because they're just not keeping up with their cardiovascular health, eating well, maintaining a good sleep balance, and all that. There's a statistic. I could look up the exact number. I'll probably butcher the exact number for it, but more more firefighters pass away from post traumatic stress, so from suicide, cardiovascular disease, and cancer than they do in a year from active dying in fires. Um, and it's the comparison for the stress levels that we put our bodies underneath with our lack of sleep schedule at times is, I'm not saying I'm a combat veteran, no part of that. Combat is probably completely different than what we do, but they're comparing the same level of stress hormones that we give off as those of combat veterans coming back. Um, because we're pushing our, I work a 24-hour shift, meaning that I'm at the station for 24 hours straight. A couple shifts ago, I had 5 runs overnight from started at about 11 p.m. and we got back to the station at about 5 a.m. in the morning. And then I came home to my 3-month-old and my wife, and now I have to help take care of a 3-month-old. It's not a have to, I get to.
Right.
I get to take care of my 3-month-old. Um, but where does the sleep happen? Where does that recovery happen? How does
Right.
your body heal from it? And that's where a lot of our we have to maintain that cardiovascular health, um, because our we don't have time to heal properly at time in between our shifts. So,
I feel like every little boy dreams of being either like a firefighter or a police officer at some point. And I mean, I as a female, I certainly never did. I'm not saying there aren't females who that's their dream when they're 3. I feel like most females are more on the princess spectrum. Boys are more on the firefighter police spectrum. Do you think that's just inherent to biology? Do you think there's a different reason for that? I mean, did you want to be at some point in time, did you say, "Hey, I want to be a firefighter for Halloween," or was that never even something you went through?
I went through military. That was my I for me when I was younger, I
Oh,
always wanted to be in the military. Wanted to go through all of that. Never got around, like never pushed it up until after college, and then discovering I can't. I have 35% hearing loss in my left ear. Fun fact: why I kind of knew the fire service was my thing. I went in for the my firefighter entrance exam, and I had perfect hearing in both ears. So really weird. Don't know why that happened. You
perfect.
don't really regain hearing well, but for me, it was military, and that's what the fire service and law enforcement is we are paramilitary. We are like the military in a lot of our things. We have officers, we have shift reports, we have, our duties. We uphold the duties of the Constitution. We swear on the Constitution. We go through the whole process, to put forth our citizens, the people that we protect, in front of ourselves. Um, so it's a lot of it's definitely a guy thing at times, I would say. Obviously, the majority of firefighters are men. And no part of that is me saying that women shouldn't be in the fire service or can't be in the fire service, because I work with a lot of great female firefighters. And a lot of them teach me things every single day. They have a positive attitude. They look at the perspective of things differently, because we're wired differently. Men are wired
Right.
as protectors, right? So we're the hunter gatherers, and women wirely are kind of more of the homebodies. And they focus on kind of the family aspect and the interpersonal workings of that. Men, we're kind of more so focused on making sure that we can be big and strong and look good. So
I also would like to just add the slight caveat that I feel like a large part of it is due to men not having any self-preservation instincts. Just as a grouping of a species, you don't, which I feel like is good if you're then going to repeatedly put yourself in harm's way, even to protect other people. Reduced self-preservation instincts are probably helpful on that
yeah,
front.
yeah. And that's where having our female firefighters come in. They really help us kind of. Maybe that's not the smartest idea. We still kind of maybe we
Shouldn't do
shouldn't
that
do that,
today.
but yeah. Uh, I agree with that. I have a little bumper sticker that I have in my locker at work that says "Let firemen be firemen." Uh, in a sense of, let us do the fun stuff. Let us go bust down doors and break into, pull people out and put water on fire and do all these things. And I had a conversation with my wife, and one thing I've always told my wife is that if my job ever gets in the way of us, I will quit it on the spot. Um, because for me, the job is not more important than my family. And that's what the fire service teaches you. It's what it's meant to be. It's driven in our heads is that family comes first. A lot of the guys that we have around the station, girls included, we're a family. We do everything we can together. We eat, sleep, go to the bathroom together, literally everything, right? We do it all. We've seen each other at our worst, we've seen each other at our best. But for me, it's always, I tell my wife, is whenever I get done with a really rough run, a run that I'm sitting there and I have to take that moment after work, is I always call my wife. I always call her and just check in with her and see how she's doing and see what's going on. And that really helps kind of, for me, ground me back into, the things that I've seen. Obviously, what I've seen is nothing compared to what other people have seen and gone through in their life. No bands of me saying I'm a hero and thank me for my service or anything like that. For me, it's a lot of, I get to the opportunity to help people in those needs, in those times of need. For us, my motto going into the fire service when I first joined was be your best on someone's worst. Um, so I have to be my best on someone's worst day, because no one calls 911 unless they need something, or it's accidental
Right.
and you accidentally put it in your pocket and forget about it or drop your phone.
Which, once again, is still not going to be somebody's best day because then 911 calls you back and goes, "Are you
Yep.
okay?" And you go, "I butt dialed. I'm so
Yep.
sorry."
Yeah.
And even that is not the
Yep.
best
Oh
day.
yeah. Yeah. It's I love this job. It's there's a saying that I laugh at. We were joking about it in the station the other day. We were watching the movie Fury, um, about World War II, tank battles, all that, and they say a line in there, "Best job I ever had." And he kind of says it mumbling as they're getting shot at, knowing they're about to die. The best job I ever had. So that's our running joke around. But for us, a lot of this is the best job we ever had. Um, and it will be the best job that we probably will ever have. The moments that we have in this service is, for every bad that we see, we make up for it in good tenfold. Um, Being able to help everyone that we possibly can and provide the education and the safety services that we need to is what drives the majority of the firefighters, because we can't do it for the pay. Um, for us, our pay is not nearly as much as you think it would be, for what we do, but we'll only complain about it behind closed doors, uh, because everyone thinks they need more money, needs to get paid more. I don't think I've ever met a single person who said, "No, I'm actually comfortable with where I'm at in pay." uh,
No, I would take a pay
Actually,
raise.
you can
I would
you
take
can
that.
pay me less, actually. uh, but we're well taken care of. Our community pours back into us as much as we pour into them. The support that we have from our community members is outstanding. And it's something to be proud of, in what we do. Yeah.
What would you say is probably the biggest fire hazard people have in their house that they don't realize is a significant fire
Heated
hazard?
blankets or heaters plugged into extension cords. So
So it's actually true I shouldn't plug things into extension cords.
heaters, mainly space heaters. Um, how they draw amps and all that stuff. My electrical engineering, I won't dive into the electrical engineering side of how this works, the reasons why it, catches fire. But those are the biggest hazards, that I would say in years that they've had over the years. The new one that is coming out are lithium ion batteries. Um,
Mhm.
Scooters, the electric scooter batteries, the bicycles, stuff like that.
What about electric cars parked in the
Yep,
garage?
yep. So,
That fall in that
yep,
category?
I would consider that, because if a vehicle catches fire in a garage, it's now a structure fire. It's now the house is on fire. It's not necessarily.
Right.
So,
It's not just gonna be the car
yep,
anymore.
yeah, yeah. Just a lot of the lithium ion, because here's the fun fact about lithium ion fires: we have no means of extinguishment.
Not even anything?
We can bury it in the ground, or we can submerge it in a pond.
Neither of which are particularly efficient
And
options.
neither of which would the EPA be happy about. Um,
There's also the EPA.
yes. Because the issue with lithium ion batteries is they work off of heat. So once the chain reaction starts, it's almost impossible for us to interrupt. And they also burn too hot for us to actually get water to the cells that are on fire. Um,
Does it just evaporate
it just
before it gets
evaporates
there?
before it even gets there. Um, so we have to use copious amounts of water. Um, so fun fact for people, if you see a fire department with a vehicle, a Tesla, for example, we'll throw a Tesla out there on the side of the road and the fire department standing there and not spraying water on it, it's because they have no means of
Right.
extinguishment. We're just going to let it burn. Um, it'll look weird. The fire truck's there. You'd be like, why aren't they putting water on it? It's because whatever we do, it's not going to be enough. Um, there was a case and we got an after action case of a electric vehicle that caught fire. They were able to put it out, or they thought they put it out enough. They loaded it onto the tow truck. The tow truck drove down the road, and it caught on fire. And then it caught the tow truck on fire. So now it turned into two vehicles. Um,
That's not
yeah.
good.
So I mean, there's junkyards where these electric cars just will burn for days. As the fuel cells in them just continue to go. I know Europe is experimenting with dump trucks filled with water, where they have a little crane that they'll pick up these cars and literally submerge them in this little mobile dump tank, and
Hmm.
drive around with them. But it'll be impressive if that ever makes it to the U.S. Um, for us, we have a cool tool. It's called the fire blanket. It's basically a giant uh, Nomex Kevlar blanket that we can put over top of a car. And, because fire needs heat, a source, right? The heat, the ignition, the source. It needs oxygen, and it needs that path for it to go, right? Uh,
Right.
so if we can extinguish the oxygen, nothing will burn. Well, the issue with these blankets is wind. One, putting a blanket over top of over top of a car is great in theory, but when you're on the side of a highway and you have cars passing by, especially semi trucks passing by,
Right.
these you're going to keep on reintroducing oxygen for them. We're not officially getting rid of them, but we're going to start steering clear of these fire blankets, for that aspect of this reignition, and it's causing, we call them smoke explosions, where the unburned particles are trapped underneath it. Once the fire reignites, it ignites those unburned particles in the air, and it creates a almost like a dust explosion type thing, but it's the unburned fuel that's in the air. So it can cause a bigger fire than it is, but
Which is not ideal. We don't wanna cause
no,
bigger fires in the process of putting out our
yeah,
first fire.
yeah,
That feels
yeah,
counterproductive.
yeah. Now, unless if you're in the wildland side, which is a very interesting, literally fighting fire with fire. But I have no experience in wildland, but that's yeah, that'd be a fun concept.
That's another
That's a whole
category.
nother category. Thankfully, we don't have major forests in the wonderful state of Ohio. So we do out west or out east, Wayne National and stuff like that. But
That's true. Maine National's a
yeah,
nice
yeah.
forest.
But
So then, okay, so for somebody who's not medically trained and able to do all of the amazing things, what's like, would you say is your top few pieces of advice for general, like, medical fire safety just for, I'll say, normal people? I would classify myself as a normal
yeah,
person in that space.
CPR training, going through the AHA or the Red Cross, and getting your CPR training. We are finding no matter what, for bystander CPR is what we call it, bystander CPR. We have a higher percentage of resuscitation if bystander CPR is being performed by like a significant number than if we do if no CPR is being performed. Even if it's not, it has to be truly effective and in a real world perfect.
Right.
All this stuff. Our chances for CPR success rates are very, they're I think it's 7.6% of successful cardiac resuscitation with no no deficits or anything, be able to walk out of the hospital. It's about 7.6% of a chance. But with bystander CPR, that number increases to, I want to say it's more than 10% of the system.
So, yeah, definitely a
Yep.
significant
Yeah.
impact.
So get trained, get your CPR certification. Uh, just those minutes matter. Um, Now it is going to be it is the likelihood of you using your CPR card as a bystander is relatively low, but it's not impossible. And it's good something to just have and understand the concept of and be able to do it. CPR is not what you see on TV shows. I will tell you that now. Yep,
Do tell us
yep,
more.
yeah, yeah. Pushing with one hand is not recommended. Pushing with two hands is.
Kinda like,
Yeah,
"Oh, yeah,
we
we are."
we watched not Chicago Fire, 911, the other big one, Station 19. We watched Station 19
Yes.
and there's a guy doing CPR with one hand and then he answers the phone and I'm like, "What are we doing?" If I ever answered my
You
phone on the
cannot answer the
scene,
phone while you do CPR, it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
work.
no, that's not one-handed CPR is not effective. Now, if you only have one hand, it can be effective, right? Like it's something better than nothing, but
But if we have 2
if you
hands,
have two hands,
we should use both of
use
them.
both of them. Sing the song. I love the Office clip. Well, I use that in my trainings. I'm a BLS instructor, so I teach CPR classes, and I use the Office scene where they're doing CPR in it. The "Staying Alive" is right there, accurate for it. We
I've also heard I think it's Golden from K-pop Demon
Golden
Hunters.
from K-pop Demon Hunters. The Imperial March from Star Wars is one.
Oh, I didn't
Yep,
know that.
yep. The fire service has a thing where we kind of make morbid jokes to each other to do it. Another one, bites the dust, is also fits in that category. Obviously, it's not. I would not recommend singing "Another One Bites the Dust" while you're performing CPR, but
Might give the wrong
might get the
impression
wrong
when
impression.
first
Yeah, that's why
responders show
"Staying
up.
Alive" is the one that's recommended. Yeah, yeah.
That's great. I have to ask before I let you go, big question of the night, are you going to have a mustache the next time we talk?
So I actually can't grow a mustache that's well. I grow mustaches that look like I shouldn't be within 400 feet of a school. Um, I live next to a school, so my wife also hates them. Does not
Oh my
enjoy my mustache. I should not have one. Should not grow one, but we'll make the attempt. November.
we're going for it in
Yep.
November,
Oh,
are
we're already
we?
gonna start growing it now. Yeah.
Oh, start now so we can maybe have a shot in
Yep.
November.
Yeah. So actually, well, do you know why firefighters wear mustaches? This was a really cool thing, or have mustaches.
I don't think so, but tell
So
me.
back in the early days of the fire service, they didn't have our SCBA bottles, so our air bottles that we have on our back with a mask. So they would just run into these fires with no protection, with smoke or anything. Their mustache would be long enough that they could wet it down over top of their mouth and act as
That makes
yeah, act as a
sense.
little filter. Yeah. Now, was it effective?
It
Probably not compared to our SCBA, but
was it better
was
than
it better than
nothing?
nothing? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So it wasn't just for
It wasn't
fashion that the mustache was
wasn't just for
precaution
fashion.
for
Yeah.
firefighters.
Yeah.
Oh, one of these days, if you make the attempt and are successful,
Oh
you
yeah.
can count yourself in the hall of firefighters with mustaches. And Ben wants to know if he has to join the fire service to grow one himself, and I told him I would
Yep.
ask.
Nope. It's not a requirement. We'll take anyone right now. Yep. Get through the training and go through it. We'll train you up for what you need to do. But if if you are feeling called to serve and to help your community out in any way, we offer ride-alongs. A lot of departments will allow you to do a ride-along or spend time at the station just to before you even enroll in school, um, just to gain that experience of what and that understanding of what we do, why we do, how we do, um, all this stuff. We're always open to people coming into our stations, and uh, we love our job. We love talking about our job. I always make the joke with people of I told my wife, how do you know my wife's from Texas? And that's because within 5 minutes she'll tell you. For me, it's how do you know I'm a firefighter? Well, probably within 5 minutes I'll tell you I'm a firefighter. So we're proud of our job. We love what we do. We love showing people our trucks. We keep them clean for a reason. We take pride in our work and we take pride in our equipment, and we keep on pushing to be better because at the end of the day, lives matter. We're one of the few services left that few jobs that really put other people first. And it's something that will never go away from the fire service. You call us, we'll be there.
And I am very, very, very thankful there are people like you who are willing to do that. I'm very thankful for the sacrifices you make and the way that impacts your life, because it is a necessary part of our society. And I don't think I would be very good in that role. So I'm thankful that there are people who excel
Yeah.
in those roles.
I thank my wife more than I think I should be thanked, because she's the one who takes care of our baby when I'm gone for 24 hours. Behind every strong man is an even stronger woman. And it's power to her what she does, and I'm forever in her her graces and allowing me to continue to do what I want to, and glory to God for putting me in the service that he wants me to be in. So thank you. It's something that we're proud of. That's really all we can say. So thank you for your
That's
support.
fair.
That's our saying.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for
Yeah,
coming
no
on and
problem. It's a lot
chatting.
of fun.
Thank you so much for listening, friend. I love learning about people and hearing their stories, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation and discovered something new today as well. A big thank you to Nick for his time and insight. I cannot wait to chat again in the future. And a heartfelt thank you goes out to all of our first responders for the sacrifices you make to keep us safe every day. Let's keep the conversation going. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on the show or a suggestion for who I should talk to next. Also, share this episode with your friends so you can keep the conversation going with them too. Don't forget, we're on Spotify and YouTube, so give the show a watch if you haven't already. Thanks for tuning in to another great conversation. I hope it was insightful and encouraging to you just as it was to me. Until next week, let's talk about it.